If you clicked on this video, you're interested in learning more about what instructional design is. It's likely that you've already done a cursory Google search and you're looking for some details beyond a basic definition. You're in the right place. I've been a practicing instructional designer for 6 years. For 4 of those years, I've been a leader of instructional designers and corporate training professionals, and I've had the chance to coach and mentor new instructional designers with a lot of different backgrounds. This video is for people who are new to instructional design or who generally want to know more about what instructional design is. In it, I'll give you a good working definition of instructional design, a list of the skills and expertise you need to be good at it, a snapshot of a day in the life of an instructional designer, a description of the types of things you might design or build, and finally, we'll wrap up by talking about what I think you need to do if you want to get started with instructional design today. Alright, enough with the preamble. Let's get into it. I love instructional design. It's the perfect blend of strategy, human psychology, business, technology, and creativity. There's never a dull moment, and if you do a good job, you can have a major impact on the organizations you work with. Most organizational change is initiated and supported through some type of training or learning, so instructional designers can find themselves at the table with the most influential voices in the business. And if you can gain their trust, the sky's the limit on the good you can do. Trust me, it's the best job you've never heard of. Since you're here watching this video, I'm willing to bet you fall into one of these categories. You're a teacher thinking about transitioning to the business world, maybe to make more money, maybe for a change of pace. A trainer or facilitator who wants more career options, a student thinking about studying instructional design, or you might even be someone who just helped out with training a few times at work and has suddenly found yourself in charge of it. This happens more than we'd like to admit. So what is an instructional designer? To put it simply, an instructional designer is someone who designs or creates learning materials or experiences to accomplish a specific goal. They're primarily responsible for elevating the learner's experience and improving learning outcomes. Now that's a bit of an oversimplification. What I just said is a bit like saying that a cinematographer is someone who recorded a home video once. There are some similarities, but there's a big difference in the knowledge, skills, equipment, and level of performance, hopefully. Most of you probably came to this video in the first place because you Googled instructional design and read something unintelligible like this. Instructional design is the discipline of intentionally and strategically creating and implementing learning solutions to accomplish organizational objectives in a variety of industries using cutting-edge technology, learning theory, and contemporary best practices. Okay, so I intentionally made that sound a little ridiculous to make a point, but I think you get the idea. In the instructional design community, we care a lot about what we do. It's important work and it takes a diverse skill set to be good at it. But sometimes we can make it feel less approachable by vomiting a complicated $10 definition that's trying to describe every aspect of the work. No one starts in this career field by being an expert at everything. So we're going to keep things simple by taking a high-level look at how instructional designers do what they do. In my opinion, a great instructional designer has a well-developed expertise in 6 areas: learning science, learning technology, visual design, business acumen, project management, and communication. They use this expertise to help business leaders solve problems. Usually, or ideally might be a better word here, it looks something like this. The business has a problem that they believe learning can help them solve, like new hires who need to be trained, or maybe something more specific, like too many customers asking for a refund when they call customer service. They bring the problem to you and your team and ask you to develop a learning solution. You work with subject matter experts to gather information and best practices that the learner needs to be successful. These subject matter experts could be business leaders, and they could be high-performing individual contributors with best practices that you want to copy or replicate. Sometimes, and more often than I'd like, no one on the team is a good expert on the topic you're creating training for, and you end up doing independent research on the what before you can start designing learning around the how. After you have the information you need, you use your expertise in learning theory and technology to propose a learning solution that has the best chance of solving the business problem. This can be through conventional learning experiences like classroom training, videos, or online courses. Or it can be through less conventional things like mentoring programs, process documentation, or finding ways to reward learners for good behavior in real time. You then design and build those solutions or resources, which usually involves some writing, preferably good writing, some graphic design to make it not look terrible, and some technology to bring your learning solutions to life. For example, authoring tools, graphic design tools, editing software, AI, or learning management systems. Throughout the process, you'll show your solutions to your stakeholders to get their feedback and recommendations. And if you're lucky enough to have both time and stakeholder support, you'll get to test that solution with a small group of learners to make sure it works before blasting it out as a required training to 30,000 people. When you're finished with all that, you make sure the learning gets assigned to the right people and measure if it's been successful. Now, if you think that sounds like a lot for one person to do, you'd be right. Most learning professionals and leaders aren't experts in all of these things. Most of us have strengths or weaknesses in one or more of these categories. But I do believe that the best instructional designers intentionally develop themselves in each of these areas, or hire people to accommodate for their weaknesses. I'll break down what I think you need in each of these categories in a future video on how to become an instructional designer. So now we know a little bit about the day-to-day, but what types of things do instructional designers typically build? We build a lot of things. I think one of the best parts of the job is that we get to tailor the solution to the problem. And sometimes that doesn't look like conventional training. Let me give you some real-life examples by breaking things down into 4 categories: live instructor-led training, self-guided learning, just-in-time learning resources, and unconventional learning solutions. First, instructor-led training. This is what most people think of when they think about training, but it's only one, sometimes very limited type of learning. For this type of learning, instructional designers are usually building things like PowerPoint presentations and facilitator guides, so trainers know how to use those presentations. They're also building classroom activities, which is a big bucket that includes things like hands-on practice, in-person feedback, case studies, quizzes, review sessions, team building activities, and maybe even some controlled job shadowing. Second, self-guided learning, also commonly called asynchronous content. This is learning that students can do at their own pace. It's not limited to classroom size or the facilitator's skills. It's great for content that you know won't change frequently, giving your learners a little more control of their experience and standardizing the quality of the learning. For this type of learning, instructional designers are usually building things like instructional videos and e-learning courses, which is another big umbrella that can be a combination of written content, videos, digital activities, and quizzes that are usually hosted on the Learning Management System, or LMS. It's worth noting that most self-guided content gets a bad rap, probably because most of it is bad, but it doesn't have to be. Third, just-in-time learning resources. This is one of the most important and yet most often overlooked categories. These are resources you create for learners that they can use in real time, in the moment they need them, on the job. These can be articles, videos, standard operating procedures, handouts, infographics, or work aids. This type of content should contain how-to information for very practical tasks that the learner needs to do correctly. For example, how do I cancel a customer account? Or how do I give a customer a refund? No matter what they are, they need to be easily accessible and provide clear directions, unlike most recipe website instructions. This content matters because we often make the mistake of looking at learning like an event. For example, we might think that learning happens just because someone went to a training or read a book. Those events are important, but they're only one small part of the learning journey. Just-in-time learning resources are meant to support the rest of that journey. The fourth and final category is what I'm going to call unconventional learning solutions. And honestly, this is where some of the best learning happens. One of my favorite things about instructional design is that you get to think outside the box to create the best solution for the problem. I can't speak to every unconventional or unexpected thing, but let me give you some examples of a few things I've dabbled in my short career. You could build a learning video game. You could make Reels or TikTok-style learning videos. You could build a custom website full of resources and activities, or an AI tutor that helps you practice soft skills, or even a full-on virtual reality simulation. There are a lot of possible solutions, and learning doesn't have to always look like a traditional classroom or course. A good instructional designer knows how to think outside the box and use technology to bring their solutions to life. In general, it's important to lean into the strengths that come from the medium you're using. For example, there are some things that in-person classes can do that self-guided learning just can't. All right, let's wrap this up. Assuming you're interested, and if you made it this far in the video, I'm guessing you are, how can you get started with instructional design today? This is a controversial take, but if I was starting over and wanted to become an instructional designer today, I would start with the technology. And when I say technology, I'm mostly talking about e-learning authoring tools like Articulate Storyline or Adobe Captivate, general content creation tools like Canva or the Adobe Suite, and a basic understanding of learning management systems, the place where you host and track learning. Don't get me wrong, an expertise and passion for how people learn is absolutely crucial to do this job well. But I know you can't do everything at once, and a lot of instructional design and junior instructional design hiring managers are really just looking for a competent person that can build things. Now, I want you to be better than that, so I'm also going to encourage you to learn some fundamentals about learning theory. Adult learning theory is a good place to start, but before I start recommending complex psychological theories like behaviorism, cognitivism, constructivism, which are the big three, I'm going to recommend a great book that will get you thinking like an instructional designer. That book is Design for How People Learn by Julie Dirksen. Julie is incredible, and her book does a great job of combining learning science with practical experience. The book is super approachable and a great place to start for any new instructional designer. In fact, if a new instructional designer came to me looking for a job and all of their thoughts were just a clone of the ideas in this book, I'd be more than okay with that. As a side note, I am planning to make a series of learning theory videos that breaks down each of the major learning theories to help you become more of an expert. Tell me in the comments if that's something that would be useful to you. I think instructional design is one of the most exciting and interesting jobs out there, and I think a lot of different types of people will thrive here because there isn't just one way to do the job. I've seen linear thinking people, technology-oriented people, creatives, artists, and business people all have incredibly successful careers as instructional designers. In general, the people who make the biggest difference here are the people who just care. A lot of learning out there isn't great. It's just information that's been gathered and regurgitated. If you can do better than that, if you can think about the people and elevate the learning experience just a little, you're in the top 20% for me. That's all I have. It's not everything, but it should be enough to get you started. Jump in the comments and tell me what types of instructional design or L&D content you want to see more of. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.